This is the only place in the universe where we know life exists. For billions of years, Earth's climate has swung between ice ages and warm periods, creating habitats and destroying them. Today, things are heating up again. Glaciers melt at speeds that are far from glacial. Natural disasters seem to be more frequent and more disastrous. And rainforests, the Earth's green lungs, shrink, while deserts grow. As conditions change, some animals may not be able to adapt. It all sounds so bleak, but that's only part of the story. Life always finds a way to reshape and re-establish itself. And while the large animals get all the attention, it's the small and very smallest that have the advantage, rising to defy every challenge with new adaptations. Insects, amphibians, spiders or reptiles, always searching out new niches. Playing their best game in order to thrive. The result is a dynamic balance, where each creature's role evolves, and the only constant is survival. Imagine a barren and forbidding landscape. A lava island, for example, newly thrust from the bottom of the sea. Apparently desolate, it's never entirely lifeless. There are bacteria that thrive in the boiling acidic water of a new-formed island. And the instant things cool down, the surrounding creatures lay claim. Some come seeking shelter, others look for food or become food. Some pioneers cling to the nooks and crannies, making the new island their permanent home. Life attracts more life, and in just a few decades, an entirely new ecosystem forms underwater. But how does life get a toehold on the rocky, forbidding upper deck? A rock jutting out of the sea doesn't have much to offer. But even the most remote desert island isn't entirely off the map. Though it may be barren and rough, it could be a lifeline for some wayward creature lost at sea. One day, the wind carries a dragonfly here, possibly hundreds of kilometers across the open ocean. Dragonflies are among the first settlers of new territories and islands, conquered first from the air. For some colonizers, the rugged cliffs hold a certain appeal. One day, European bee-eaters will find the comforts of home in the eroded rock walls. They dig out their nests and raise their young. But long before, down below, seabirds assess the new shoreline. The beach provides a convenient resting place and a chance to survey the new terrain for suitable breeding grounds. Seagulls are citizens of the world, quickly colonizing coastlines wherever they emerge. The surging surf always provides something to eat. The tide delivers more than meals to the island. Along with seaweed and algae come seeds and portions of land plants, carried hundreds of kilometers to reach these new shores. And even small stowaways, like these 3-millimeter long jumping spiders, survive the treacherous sea voyage. Some butterfly species fly hundreds of kilometers across the ocean, only to be devoured. It doesn't take long for crabs and other amphibious animals to stake their claim on the virgin coastal regions. Bigger pieces of flotsam carry larger castaways to these far-flung shores. The involuntary voyager will have to figure out how to make a go of it. Stranded, the Böttger's lizard sees its chance. Without its usual diet of small bugs, the lizard must resort to eating fruit. And if by chance more lizards of the same species arrive, they'll establish a community of fruit-eating lizards. That's how new environmental conditions generate new species. Over hundreds of thousands of years, animals isolated on an island develop a unique shape and coloration. Sooner or later, a locust finds its way here. And although the lizards here thrive on fruit, they've never truly lost their appetite for insects. Bugs aren't the only ones who have to watch their step. Areas without vegetation can become the domain of the horned viper. Perfectly adapted to sandy soils, it digs in and disappears. Scorpions also love this arid environment. The venomous pair form an uneasy truce. As the green coastal areas get settled, more small animals find their niche inland, away from the crowd. Darkling beetles nibble their way through life, eating just a tiny amount of vegetation. They also make do with very little moisture. The smallest of dewdrops will suffice. This leopard gecko has also adapted to desert life, and darkling beetles are on its menu when it can catch one. The little beetles are much too fleet of foot. The leopard gecko has to hope for a slower prey, or a happy coincidence driving the darkling beetle right into its jaws. Desert scorpions like dry heat, but they don't tolerate direct sunlight. To escape it, they frantically dig themselves a cave, becoming so focused on their task that they can forget their surroundings. The Savannah Monitor seizes the opportunity. Reproduction is the surest sign of successful colonization. For many lizards, that means laying eggs which they hide in crevices or bury in the sand and then abandon. The soft, leathery shells make it easy for the hatchlings to rip open without much effort. The real trouble starts once they're out. For some, a few days or weeks is all they get. Without their parents' protection, they have to fend for themselves. Sooner or later, a falcon reaches the isolated island, and the balance of power shifts. Predator becomes prey. It doesn't take long for the bird to adapt to the new delicacy. Nothing is wasted in this new ecosystem, and frequently the very small play a big role. Since ants eat anything, they adapt easily to new habitats. They help clear the remains of dead animals in no time. Joining forces to transport large chunks of scavenged food into their colonies. Some of the more than 20,000 species have become super specialized. Instead of hunting other insects, they tend them like tiny livestock. This little caterpillar can nibble away happily thanks to the ants that guard it. In return, the caterpillar supplies them with a sugary liquid from a gland in its abdomen. It's a sweet deal, swapping food for security. Seeds, carried by the wind and seabirds, aggressively colonize the island too. They fall into the fertile soil or lodge in the cracks of the rocks. Generations of plants spread out, die, and create rich compost, making it easier for the less hardy plants to grow. Over a few thousand years, a blink of an eye in geological terms, the original lava desert transforms into a lush tropical paradise. Another kind of island transformation happens too. After many generations, animals living in isolation from the rest of their species form local variations. For example, this finch species in the Azores. While they look similar to their relatives on the mainland, they sing a different tune, like a local dialect. One of the world's smallest birds is the kinglet. It weighs about as much as 5 paper clips. This species lives only on the island of Madeira. There are just a few hundred specimens of this distinctive variety. They live in damp evergreen forests and eat tiny insect eggs and small spiders. This owl butterfly has adapted so well to its new environment that it no longer visits blossoms but feeds entirely on rotten fruit sap. Its proboscis has adapted to the new food source. This Malaysian fruit borer specializes in tapping the sap of fruits still hanging on the tree. The death's head hawk moth developed one of the most bizarre adaptations. It raids the nests of wild bees to poke its short proboscis into the comb and feed on honey. The bees immediately attack and frequently sting these moths to death. But the species itself will survive these losses. The Indian lunar moth hatches at night, the safest time to reveal its colorful wings. By adapting to changing circumstances, predators and their prey maintain a fascinating, delicate balance with their environment and with each other. Tarantulas, the world's biggest spiders, can have a leg span almost as wide as a dinner plate. They have powerful mandibles. Their fangs can grow to more than 1 centimeter long. The venom they inject not only kills their prey, but also starts to digest it. And though most tarantula venom is no stronger than a bee sting, it does the trick on frogs, snakes, and lizards. The tropical centipedes share their habitat with the tarantulas and sometimes eat them. They can grow to more than 25 centimeters. Among the Earth's oldest land animals, centipedes have been around for some 400 million years. Their poison kills lizards, frogs, birds, and mice. Sooner or later, even medium-sized mammals like coati may conquer new islands. The spider stands no chance against its agile attack. As islands age, They may eventually collect enough fresh water to start and cultivate a dense jungle, which swans find quite attractive. The greater the variety of plants and animals, the more specialized they become. Animals diversify to find a unique niche to exploit, a way of hunting or eating or behaving that will help them survive. And sometimes the result is bizarre. Scientists are still discovering new species, like this puzzling spider found in the late 1990s. No one has classified it yet. Certain body features suggest it's a so-called raft spider, while other features argue against it. And no one knows how dangerous it might be. Like animals, plants also make the most of their opportunities. To get pollinated, orchids vie for attention by flaunting their sexy blossoms. But for many varieties, the birds and the bees focuses mainly on the birds, specifically hummingbirds. These super specialized pollinators have developed needle-thin beaks and long tongues to reach the orchid's nectar, and in the process spread the pollen. It's win-win. Bird and blossom are so perfectly co-adapted they fit like a lock and key. A different species of hummingbird with a slightly different beak and tongue would be locked out. Nowhere is evolution's colorful diversity more apparent than in tropical forests. But sometimes nature borrows from itself. What looks like a leaf is really an insect, a leaf insect. These plant-eating bugs, to avoid being eaten themselves, imitate the foliage. They even mimic a leaf's subtle veins and holes to confound the sharpest-eyed predator. Of course, insects need to travel and leaves don't, and that could be a dead giveaway. But evolution has provided a workaround. When groups of these insects sway back and forth, they look like a simple, wind-swept branch. The leaf insects aren't the only ones to figure out how to shake off danger. Wasp spiders boisterously jiggle back and forth inside their web. The motion actually helps them to stand out less. Anything that's blown about by the wind so much surely can't be alive. Other animals try their best to blend in by keeping still. The caterpillar of the wormwood moth looks just like the plant it eats. Only its slight movement gives it away. Predators are attuned to the slightest motion. Sharp-eyed mantises don't miss a trick. In a forest littered with dry leaves and moldy wood, flamboyance can be fatal. So the best way to stay alive is to blend into the woodwork. Madagascar's leaf-tailed gecko has the right idea. Although it's more than 20 centimeters long, it's virtually invisible. Even its big eyes are marbleized. And it hedges its bets by venturing out only under cover of darkness to hunt insects. When it does go out, it moves slowly, doing its best to imitate breeze-tossed bark and leaves. One sudden move would blow its cover. But what tiny predator can compare to the leaf-mimicking prowess of this next creature? The praying mantis. Its brilliant camouflage allows it to lay back and disappear. An unsuspecting insect that wanders too close to the mantis doesn't have a prayer. When it comes